and welcome to my Python programming final project, Ethersphere. So first, let's get this open. Let's run Python and then Ethersphere. And let's see how it looks. So let's get where the server where it's running on. Copy it in. And allow us to see the project. So before I even start showing it, my original idea for this project was that I have been recently, in the past 6 months, I've been doing a lot of trading with cryptocurrency, with NFTs, and I've noticed that, a lot of my, Ethereum holdings were somehow disappearing, and I couldn't put my finger down on why. I knew that gas fees and transaction fees were a big thing, but I didn't realize how big of a deal it really was. So I discovered a few sites which showed me, how much I was spending in gas, and I was shocked. And the problem was also that although there were so many, a few different sites showing this, none of them were showing their data or all of it in a concise and effective way. So I decided that I would solve that problem. So I used the Etherscan API to get a list of all my transactions and parsed through that API and found a way to present all the data in a nice and elegant way. So first of all, let's try to analyze just, a blank wallet here. And when that happens, of course, that's not a real wallet, so we need to take a look at it. So let's insert mine now. And when you run this, it's going to call the Etherscan API and look for 4 things about your wallet. First of all, being the holdings in your wallet. Unfortunately, I only have 0.00105 ETH, which is $2.75. So, not looking great for me right now. And then you also have 3 different types of fees. Gas fees on successful outward transactions, which I spent 0.7 ETH on, which is around $1,800. And this is when you're buying something like an NFT, a transaction. You're trying to buy a different coin using Ethereum. Will be that kind of transaction. And then you also have gas fees for failed outward transactions, and this might be when you're attempting to mint a project, an NFT project, and it fails. You'll still have to pay gas because a miner did try to get that forged on the next block. And I spent 0.1 ETH in that. And also, one thing that I didn't realize when I was originally getting into this sort of, trading in NFTs and cryptocurrency was that you have to pay fees even when you're receiving. So although it's, much less relative to the other amounts, I spent 0.02 ETH, which, about $70. And it's almost ironic that, cryptocurrency attempted to solve this idea of, central transactions, fees and such, but in reality, you're paying a lot for fees, and they're not cheap either, it's pretty interesting, that duality that sort of exists in crypto. You're just making stuff easier, but it's also still expensive. And the next part of my project was exploring Ethereum statistics. We all hear about Ethereum, the price it's at. Oh, this is, great trading price. But the truth is, as a regular person, how do we know what's a good trading price? When is a good trading price? How does this price compare to how it was in the past? So I attempted to solve, this issue, not solve it, but create a tool for this issue to let people become more aware of how Ethereum is acting. So what I did was I used crypto compare to get historical prices of Ethereum, and then used Python pandas to create a 30-day rolling average for the data. And additionally, I calculated four key metrics about this data set to know, what was the minimum price, the max price, average price, and also standard deviation over the time period. Just for those who are a bit more statistically aware, give them some stats. And what I did here was I overlaid 30-day rolling average on top of the price itself to get an idea of when's a good price to buy, when does it seem cheap. And if we look right now, it seems that the price of Ethereum is under the 30-day moving average, so who knows, maybe if you're a long-term holder or you want a quick flip, this would be your time to buy in. And given that I have 3 different time frames for people to analyze, I didn't use a 30-day moving average for all. For 1 week, I used a 2-day rolling average, which was really more of a quick flip idea. And then for those who want 1 month, a little bit longer time horizon, they can get 5 days, so they can see again what's it looking like over a month. And this was sort of just meant to give people a general idea of how Ethereum is trading relative to past performance. And the last thing I was thinking was that given that, of course, Ethereum does not exist in a bubble, there's many other cryptocurrencies, I might as well just compare it to the one that's, sort of its main competitor, or the one that's famous as Ethereum, which is Bitcoin. And given that these two, trade at very different price points, Bitcoin, we think of it near 50,000 or something, and Ethereum near 2 or 3, we can't compare the raw price. So I needed to come up with a metric to compare them both. And what I decided upon was comparing the growth over a period of time compared to how it was trading on the first day of the given time period. And I'm going to demonstrate that right now. So time 0 for both will represent a 0% change in price because that's the starting point. And every subsequent date will show the change compared to how it was trading on that first day in the time frame. So blue represents Ethereum here. We can see the legend in the bottom right, and seeing that in May of 2021, Ethereum was blowing up, 150% up, but then hit that quick drop up until July, and then had those two peaks again. Then in September and November, and has acted strong for through the winter, but now it seems to be a bit weaker again. And first of all, this just shows us how volatile Ethereum is, and it's not really what we would call mature. And then we look at Bitcoin, which seemed to have a different story this past year, which was that it had some decent growth in the beginning of this last year time period, but then failed, and it's failed to have that growth which we've always been hearing about, and now it's even down from where it was a year ago. So it's interesting that it's almost that we hear more about Bitcoin on whatever CNBC or whatever news you're watching, but it's a less strong performing asset. But this could also be interpreted that maybe it's just a tad more mature asset, and that it's the fact that it's staying in this range is a good sign. And one thing I think is interesting between these two lines is that although they may appear on different y-axis, they really are exhibiting similar behavior. When one goes up, the other goes up. When one goes down, the other goes down. There's definitely some sort of correlation between them both, and it's interesting for investors who want to diversify how they're going to balance that, because clearly they're moving in very similar patterns. And these are the three key functionalities, and I'm going to quickly run you through the code for them. So for wallet analytics, let me first open up my app Flask my program, and let's open up the /wallet page. So this opens up wallet.html, and this really is just a placeholder for the wallet data which I create in walletanalysis.py. So what I do here is I use Etherscan, I pull a wallet address, I get all the associated transactions, and then I parse through the JSON to see the type of transaction, and then based on the type of transaction it is, add it to the fee collective. And the main challenge of this was actually just parsing through and understanding the JSON, because there was a lot of extra data there. And there's also another function which just gets the value of the wallet, so you know how much you're holding, and then get ETH last price, which is used to sort of compare the Ethereum cost of fees and then convert that to US dollars, so you get an idea of how much you've actually been spending. And then the next thing we have is the research, which is getting the 30-day moving average, and I use radio buttons. And again, it's sort of simpler. Here is on the HTML page, I have the 4 statistics here, and then I have the graph. And for the graph and the data, first thing I used crypto compare to get the days, to get the historical prices of Ethereum, and I return that in a tuple of final prices and dates, so I can graph that a bit easier. But first of all, I feed the key stats into this so I can get the data which I want about it. And then now they have this nice form, I create the graph. First I use pandas to make a data frame of the prices, and then I used the pandas rolling to get the rolling average which I desired. And then once I had those two, I saved it as a PNG and then uploaded it to the site. And actually, the real challenge of this was getting Matplotlib on a Flask app, and it was quite difficult because you needed to use image, you needed to use base64, IO, bytes IO, and compress it into a PNG format. And that was the code for that. And the last element was ETH to BTC, the comparison. And again, I have the same function here, which I'm getting the Ethereum price, but I also need to get the Bitcoin price this time. And given that I don't want to compare just the prices, but the growth of the prices, I use this function here to convert it into the form I want, which essentially just uses list comprehension on the old data, but divides everything by the first price in the data set, so we can see percentage growth versus that day. And once again, I used a pandas data frame so I could have a easier graphing in matplotlib. And then again, I used matplotlib here. I overlaid those two. And it was nice that Ethereum was blue and Bitcoin was orange, so it representing the colors we associate with them as well. And another cool feature which I did here was actually because we all often think about growth in percentages. I found a way to convert the y-axis tickers all into percentage format for this graph, and I thought that was a really cool and nifty feature. And same problem where I needed to convert everything to a PNG, and that was really important that I could have managed to get these graphs on this page. And that was the code base. And looking back, I feel really good about this project. I think that this idea of analytics in the crypto space is still extremely underserved, and we're going to see in the upcoming years some massive companies that are going to come out exactly in this space. And the fact that I could get my hands dirty now and sort of understand some of the work going on that is really huge. And a bit more, just to give some foresight on what I think will happen is that people are going to realize that things like cryptocurrencies, NFTs need more data scientists looking into it. And in particular with NFTs, I think there's going to be almost a revolution of people applying quantitative strategies and modeling prices to NFTs. And this sort of, I think, is in the right area for one to move into that later. So I just thought that was a cool idea to move forward from. So I hope you enjoyed this final project, and thank you so much. Have a good one.